Welcome to a special edition of the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Oh, what's up, people? It's Friday, probably. I'm not
Hopefully.
sure yet. We're gonna find out. Maybe it's Friday, maybe it's not. You don't know.
What we do know for sure is that we have a sponsored episode today, this time coming from our patron and good friend, PedantiCat. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
Now, we had something planned last month, and you know what they say, man plans, God laughs. So we're back again, and this time, Pedenti, what do you have for us?
Well, Ian, I basically just have a mountain full of questions I want to ask because every time I send one question, I think of like 10 more. So I figure, hey, this is a good way to like cut through the list while also not clogging like the list of questions.
Questions? For me? How droll. Then yes, let's get to it.
Okay, so starting off, so Ian, as the World's Gallery and IDW Sonic continues to grow, do you have ideas for different types of villains we haven't gotten yet in this continuity? So villains isn't a bad person, but they have no choice but to be a villain. Villains who have good intentions, but the way they're going about it is all wrong. Or villains who are just plain psychotic like Flying Frog. And any chance of getting villains that aren't just Blink the Animal?
Maybe kinda. The thing with the egg bosses was we were trying to very rapidly rebuild a massive world after the reboot. And it was very compartmentalized. Each region had a freedom fighter team. Each region had an egg boss. The idea being that you could send Sonic anywhere in the world and he had a supporting cast and antagonist set up for him. With IDW, we are not doing that approach. It's a little more focused and a little more streamlined. So right now, we have Eggman, we have Rough and Tumble, we have Clutch.
Starline.
We have Starline, we have Mimic. We have a pretty decently sized Rogues Gallery. Oh, Surge and Kit. There's certainly other ideas for characters or antagonists to fill certain niches, but I think at the moment we're pretty stocked up on villains. We don't want to bloat the cast, and it's already pretty big.
That makes sense. So, like, I guess, like, does that mean you also have, because, like, I find it actually interesting. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but all your time writing on Sonic, like with Gina, the Iron Queen, correct?
I didn't even create that. That was revitalizing something that was already there.
Oh, wow. Huh. Well, I didn't know that, but would you say, like, do you think Eggman should be the only human villain, or do you think the series could benefit from more human villains?
I think there needs to be a little more variety in terms of top tier villains. We've seen Eggman for 30 years now. We know his gimmick, and he works. He's great. But it wouldn't hurt to diversify a little bit. The problem with human characters are, I don't know, to me, they're kind of inherently boring compared to your Mobian characters. So if you're going to have a new human villain, number one, we've got to figure out what the status is with humans on Sonic's world and all that. And two, they need a gimmick that is impressive and endearing enough that it doesn't eclipse Eggman, but it also doesn't run like redundant to Eggman, but also fits with Sonic's themes. And it'd be tricky. It'd be a tricky hill to climb.
It makes sense. I do know I did like the Iron Queen whole stick of being a technopath because like that actually works perfectly in the world of Sonic.
Yeah, she was fun. But there's kind of a weird status of magic within the official Sonic material, so I don't know if we can tread that ground again. I don't know if we could even directly reference that because of the comic stuff.
I understand. Okay, so next question. So, given the Freedom Fighters post-reboot were a full-on superhero team akin to the Avengers and Justice League, it actually got me thinking, Do you think Nicole or Sally would pull a Batman in which they have a set of contingency plans to incapacitate their friends if any of them were to ever turn villainous or be mind controlled? And how do you think they would all react to such a thing?
I mean, given what happened in Mecha Madness and how many times there has been some degree of forced control, I think Sally would take it as a pragmatic idea to at least like workshop some ideas. Not in that she would ever distrust her friends, but that she would think of it as a necessary precaution to rescue them and protect those who weren't in trouble. Um, there is potential drama there for the plan to be exposed without the context, and oh, how could you think of this? But even still, I think the team had enough trust within each other that their friendship was strong enough that there might be some hurt feelings, but there would be like everybody would say, "Yo, Sal, this is kind of sketch," and she would go, I'm sorry, but this is why," and they would go, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, all right. I can see why. But, you could talk to us about it. You don't have to do this all by yourself." And she's like, "Yeah, but if I'm workshopping my plans to stop you, you're going to know what those plans are if I have to stop you." Like, well, yeah, I guess there's that too. That's awkward. This is awful. Yeah, it is. Eggman's really awful. Yeah, he is. Let's go take him out. Yeah, let's do that.
That makes sense with their character, though. Those ways are not like exactly how do you imagine, like, what kind of contingency plan would she make for some of her friends, especially like powerhouses like Sonic and Bunny?
Bunny, I imagine, would be just about in the same camp as any something to disable the robotics, even if they like just go offline. I imagine that's a degree of dead weight that she would have to carry. For Sonic's case, that's the nightmare scenario because you can't stop Sonic. We've established this. There was an early issue where he takes out the Freedom Fighters by himself. And that's not even mind control. That was just a case of amnesia. And that's even before Mecha Sonic. So I don't know. It would be kind of fun to see how she would think of this. And shoot, she might even have to put it into play if like Scourge did something. It's like, well, I've had my contingency plan for Sonic.
Cool.
So now we can apply it to Scourge. But now I can take the safeties off because he's a jerk.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I can't help but imagine it, but do you think Sally contingency plan for Antoine would be to just draw a painted tunnel on the wall for him to run into?
No, she gets halfway through preparing a crepe and she's like, one more move, and I'm using margarine.
Uh-oh.
None! Do not use the margarine! I will be surrendering!
Okay, that's a little okay. Okay, so now one thing I have noticed in recent years, like the werehog have become really popular, so it got me wondering, how would you have felt if Sonic never lost the ability to turn into a werehog? And if the werehog transformation was kept, how do you think elements in IDW Sonic would play out differently as a result of that? For instance, during the Zombat apocalypse, when Sonic transformed, would he still be infected, or would he have to work twice as hard to fight off the infection?
Interesting. Well, I mean, Sonic's characterization didn't change that much with werehog form, so it's not like his personality or outlook would necessarily be different. You'd have to take the whole, day into account just to make it meaningful. You'd have to have more night justify, the werehog still being around, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Vary up the environments a little bit. For Metal Virus, the whole thing is that Sonic's speed, which inexplicably has crazy properties to it, is able to burn off the Metal Virus, but the werehog does not have that speed, not even remotely. So, man, that'd be an extra ticking clock. Like, the werehog himself, it seems like all of his speed is kind of transferred into that wild brawler energy. So maybe he could potentially like flail it into semi-submission, but he's got to keep it in check until the sun rises and he can start running again. But he wouldn't be able to fight like he was before, because before he could fight, run off, heal up, come back. Werehog, all that power, all that strength, all that stretchy armed goodness would be absolutely useless because all it would do was accelerate the infection. So he would be completely at odds with things in the evening. Man, it's hard. He had a hard enough time as it was. Yee.
Yeah, though, like you bring up the aggressive also led me to another point. Like, considering how Soulja is like a clone / counter to Sonic, and with how aggressive she is, just how nightmarish would it be if she had a whale form?
You'd basically just have some horrible Raiju werehog monster nightmare thing.
Yeah, that shoots electricity.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rad.
And also, like the last part of this question, do you think Tangle would end up dubbing herself and Sonic as stretchy buddies?
Oh, absolutely. She would want to see whose limb could stretch further, who was more limber. Not out of competition, just out of like fun.
Yeah, that makes sense for Tangle. She sees Sonic turn into a monstrous beast. That's awesome.
I mean, she already can do jump rope with her tail. With Werehog, she could do like double dutch. No,
Double Dutch.
triple dutch.
Oh boy.
Okay, so this is a question that has been on my mind for a long time, though. So, who would win in a fight between Gemwall and Metal Sonic? Because we've actually seen the two fight twice across two separate continuities, but neither was a proper one-on-one, with the first time being Metal Sonic having backup, and the second time it was less of a fight and more so Metal taking a cheap shot at him.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Metal Sonic's got it in the bag. I think General could put up a decent fight.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, one-sided, but Sonic Advance 3 is entirely about Sonic and company taking down General as he got increasingly powerful. And Metal Sonic is on par with Sonic, if not superior in a lot of ways. So the proof is in the pudding. I'm sorry, General. I love you, buddy, but you're kind of built to be a jobber.
Thing, that kind of like double depressing, since like in a way he's kind of like a spiritual successor to Shard, so a rematch would be a successor to that fight, and even like in another continuity, it would still end the same.
Yeah.
It's hard to compete with Metal Sonic, There's a reason why he's so dang popular.
Which is weird. Like, you think for as popular as he is, he'd appear more in the games.
Well, it's more special when he doesn't appear all the time.
I mean, yeah, but like, if he's like the idea behind Metal Sonic is that he's Eggman's greatest creation made to rival Sonic. So, I don't know, you think he would utilize his greatest weapon more often.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's this kind of gameplay versus story sort of thing again, so.
True. Okay, so Ian, one of the many rules that ended up being put into place for the rebooted universe of Archie Sonic was that SEGA characters weren't allowed to be in romantic relationships anymore. How did you react to that mandate when you were informed about it? And if that rule wasn't put into place, would you have had Sonic and Sally be together already in the rebooted universe? I know romance in Archie Sonic doesn't have the best history, but I enjoyed how you worded, and there is something tragic about Sonic and Sally not being together in the reboot universe, given how you had them finally get back together only to be split apart with Sally's heroic sacrifice.
There were ways we could dance around it. The intention, now this is kind of Lost Hedgehog Tales territory, but screw it. The thinking was that we were using the classic styles of the characters to show them as their younger selves. And if we had had more time there, the idea is we would show Sonic and Sally having a bit of a thing at the time, and then they just grew apart. So the idea being that we still acknowledge it and it still kind of happened, but they were no longer beholden to it. Like Sally wasn't locked into this one thing forever and ever. Because as I've said on the show before many times in the past, it isn't fair to her character that her relationship can't go anywhere because she's locked in with a character that can't advance, you know? So we were trying to cover all our bases. So they were together briefly in the past, and that didn't work out. And then Sally was free to grow and explore in different directions, and Sonic remained, the mascot.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Still, though, it does kind of feel very bittersweet, you know?
Sure, especially if you're, hardcore into that particular ship. You may not be satisfied with they were a thing at one point, but some folks would appreciate at least the lip service, and some would want all or nothing. So you can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah, that's fair though. Interesting enough, I did notice like how in the post reboot, I'm not complaining. I love the ship, but I noticed that you had like a lot of so naming moments, and like I really like how you wrote it, in which like it was very mutual. It didn't really feel one-sided. Like was the whole like Sonic and Sally not being able to be in a relationship kind of influenced you into, leaning a bit more into So Namey?
See, it's been so long, but I feel like that's where the climate in the games was kind of going at the time. But, we wouldn't have been able to commit to it anyway. So since it was still a prominent element between the two of them, I wanted it to at least be a healthy relationship. So even if we couldn't like commit fully to the idea, what little seed of a notion was there still needed to be nurtured in a positive way.
Makes sense, makes sense. Like, I really do like how Sonic would actually tease Amy multiple times. It wasn't just like, Amy pining after Sonic. Like, there was an argument chip anyone could make that, okay, Sonic does seem a little bit interested in Amy. So, like, those moments always put a smile on my face.
Because that was like Unleashed Black Knight type of era, wasn't it?
I know the post reboot was like it was adapting the Unleashed storyline.
Yeah, because I know there's a couple of like you can have Sonic go on a date or accept the idea of a date with Amy in Unleashed, and in Black Knight she's mad that he's late for the date, which means he was committed to the idea. So yeah, I think that's where my head was at the time, is that they seemed to be at least going closer to a commitment there. And then the pendulum swung the other way, and here we are.
And then Colors happened, and everything went, just kind of cut that off at the knees.
And then Generations happened, and he's face palming her at arm's length. It's like, yikes.
And then you got Lost World, in which he confessed, Sonic, I love, and you have Sonic be all upset and worried about Amy.
Yeah, that's open-ended enough that it's, he's sad that, she got cut off, or he's sad because she's dead now. So there's reasons to be upset.
Okay, so you've created like a lot of characters in it, a lot of them all having like a unique superpower. So I'm curious, are there any superpowers you want to introduce in Sonic, but you just haven't figured out the character for said power yet?
Nothing springs to mind. I feel like it's more of a package deal where if we want to introduce somebody new, what role do they serve in the narrative? How do they bounce off of Sonic or one of the other characters? And from there, how do they fit into the world? What is a gimmick that makes them interesting and fun to work with and could potentially be gamified? Because I figure if these characters feel like they could be in a game, that makes them feel more natural in a comic about a game. you know? Sure, I also, in my heart of hearts, hope that they get adapted one day. That would be crazy awesome. But it's more to make the product itself feel more in line with the franchise.
Makes sense. I know, like, one power I always thought that would be really cool to see, since it would be a good counter to Sonic speed, is someone who could, like, manipulate time, like, slow down the area around them. So, kind of like the Total from DC. Like, he's an enemy of the Flash, so he can kind of, like, slow down time, which is a problem for someone like the Flash.
Yeah, but when you get to that level of area of effect powers, you run the risk of being really OP. Now, I'm not super familiar with the Turtle and the Flash and all that, but like if the whole thing is he can create a negative space of anti-speed around him, how do you deal with that? Like everything that approaches can be slowed down to the point where it's a non-issue. What is the clever way of undoing that isn't just goes faster, you know?
True. I think I only find it would be kind of cool if we got like more Sonic villains, kind of like based off the Flash's Rogues Gallery, because like the clever thing about Flash's Rogues Gallery is like a lot of their powers serve as a good counter to the Flashes. Like Mirror Master, like sure the Flash can run fast, but like you can't punch someone who's currently inside a mirror.
I suppose not, but I would just, store the mirror in a U-Haul trailer and lock it up. Problem solved.
Okay. Okay. So with how the imposter. Okay. So everyone have already made a joke. I even sent and asked about this. But with how imposter syndrome have several similarities to the Android saga, does that mean we can expect that the next Sonic miniseries will be based off the Boo saga?
No. The parallels with the Android saga were accidental. I didn't mean to do it. And honestly, you can almost argue that Boo Saga's already happened. I mean, an ancient evil power that rivals that of the gods and takes unprecedented levels of miraculous energy to stop. That's basically Mephiles, Iblis, and Solaris.
I suppose that's true, though. Well, I guess one arc I definitely could see Sega copying is like the Black Star Dragon Ball. The Chaos Emeralds have been used so many times, so each of them take the form of a new deadly enemy.
You could go that route. And for those who are listening and kind of prickling, going, well, isn't that a fan idea, Ian? Why are you not shooting him down? We're talking about parallels with Dragon Ball here. That idea has already been established, and the parallels between Sonic and Dragon Ball are like famous and blatant and storied. So this walks the line, but it's okay. I mean, you could do that. There is that whole negative and positive energy within the Emerald type of thing, but I don't know. It's the thing is, once you go that route, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? If the idea is misuse of the Chaos Emeralds builds up negative juju and eventually these villainous forms appear, that introduces the idea that we've got the ticking clock. That's going to happen again as long as the Chaos Emeralds are in use. How dastardly do the plots have to be to recharge and get these things to pop out again? And if they prove to be super popular as villains and you want to bring them back, how do you do that without, and then Eggman grabbed the Chaos Emeralds and wished for 1,000 dead puppies. Boom, villains are back. It's not a bad idea at its absolute basis, but it would have to be handled with care.
Well, as long as they don't turn Sonic into a kid for no logical reason, I think we'll be good.
Let's see. We want classic Sonic back in this game. How do we do that? Yes.
I will never I really do not understand the thought process of, hey, let's make Goku a kid again. What?
My understanding was they were trying to recapture the magic of the original Dragon Ball, but that's not necessarily the best way to go about it.
Yeah, no. Okay, so do you think there was some kind of ancient connection between echidnas and hedgehogs? Like between the echidna's connection to the Master Emerald, which has a connection to the Chaos Emerald, which those can only be used by male hedgehogs. I can't help but feel like there's a missing piece to this puzzle we haven't gotten yet.
Oh, there's a piece, and I can't talk about it.
Ian knows, folks. Ian knows.
Knowing smile. Here we go.
Okay, well, then moving on to the next one, because this is something I've been wondering about since the end of the arc. Like, I know it's pretty common for Sonic Chaos, just kind of back given how often it happens, but with how traumatic the Zombat apocalypse was for a lot of characters, especially young ones like Cream and Charmy, doesn't it feel like the event should have more of a lasting impact on the characters emotionally?
Yes and no. Yes, in that you're right. An event that large, you would think there'd be a little more direct follow up. But on the other hand, we spent a year and a half on that doom and gloom and drama, and dwelling on the fallout of that, I feel like would also kind of just drag. It would be, it wouldn't be fun to get through because recovering from trauma is not fun. It's not. So Evan, taking time to do more low key and personal stories as the characters pick up and move on, I think is a fine way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and it is like I'm definitely not opposed to after something super heavy, we get like some nice lighter arcs, but at the same time, it just kind of feel like, well, that's over and done with. Let's go have some fun. Like no, like maybe because like with Marvel and DC, why whenever there was these big comic events and not like the event is over and everything just go back to normal, like if things happen to the character, like it actually like leave a lasting impact. It doesn't just kind of like just get pushed underneath a rock. And not like the Zombat arc was forgotten. It's just that like I was kind of hoping it would affect the characters more. Maybe at least like maybe Cream and Charmy still have nightmares. Maybe Vector is very protective of Charmy because of what happened. Just like something to highlight that what happened was traumatic.
Fair enough.
Okay, so here's the big one that honestly, when I played Sonic Forces, it really disappointed me. How do you feel about Infinite just being a mercenary modified by Eggman? Like, I honestly find it bizarre since everything from the trailers made it seem like Infinite was basically Eggman's own shadow, so to speak, with him being created solely in a lab. There's even dialogue within the game that seems to back up that idea, such as Tails remarking that this is the area where Eggman built Infinite, with Amy saying, "It's so sad, what a lonely place to be brought into the world."
All I know is what Sega gave me, it bugs me that his name is Infinite before he gets his abilities. I mean, I know it's a Sonic series, everybody's got nouns for names, but it's like what the guy is a nihilist, but he's named Infinite. I can't like I don't know. Forces, I feel like they had more ambitious ideas and then they couldn't realize them all, and then there was a forced crossover with Mania, which should have just been its own thing, and we got what we got.
Yeah. I just find like Force's story to be so fun because like the concept of Eggman taking over the world with their like Sonic and his friends fighting against him, that's been done multiple times. Like not just in the Archie comic, but in Sat AM and like even Sonic Underground. Like somehow Sonic Underground does that story better than Sonic Forces. So, like, another thing about Infinite, like, okay, with how powerful he is, why didn't he betray Eggman? Like, what reasoning did he have to not betray him?
I have questioned that myself. On the one hand, it's kind of nice that we haven't had yet another vile but inevitable betrayal of an egg goon, but I think he just didn't have the motivation to do so. Like, he didn't really care. Eggman gave him the power to just be a jerk, and he was content. He had aspirations outside of having power, and so he did, and he was fine with that.
It makes sense. Again, not everyone want a nest. Just because they want power doesn't mean they want to rule the world. Ruling the world is a lot of work. You gotta make your army. You gotta make sure to schedule time out of your day to terrorize people. I don't know how Eggman does it.
I'm sure Orbot's there with a detailed itinerary. Pardon me, boss, but it's time for your 10 o'clock terrorizing.
Now I want a Q&A with Orbot.
Hey, you gotta stop with these character impersonation. Otherwise, people will be sponsoring like all types of guest episodes.
Oh no, we get money and I get to be goofy on the air for an hour. The hardship, the terror.
Yeah.
So Sonic Boom, do you ever think about like all the untapped potential that came from that series? Like Boom was a complete reimagining of the Sonic brand that had the potential to do a lot of new and interesting things that we only got to see bits of, with it now being mostly known for its comedic but still hilarious animated series.
I try not to think about it because it gets depressing. It's like you said, there was a whole new way to take on Sonic, and it didn't, and just kind of how things happened, and it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
And
oh
it's a
well.
shame. And it's a shame how like Sega kind of like just distancing themselves from Sonic Boom, kind of like pretending it never happened. Like in the 30th anniversary video, there's not like when they list TV show, the only Sonic show it shows is Sonic X. And like they want to pretend Sonic Boom never happened, which I do think is a shame because hey, the show was at least good.
Yeah, but that seems to be Sega's general policy, is to not acknowledge projects that are done in their mind.
Kind of funny how they want to move on to the past, yet at the same time hold on to the past.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Sega's weird, you know?
Very, very. So, like, continuing with Boom, like, okay, how do you, like, you probably answered this question like years ago, but I can't find a question on the Q&A list. So, like, how do you feel about like a lot of the changes made for the reimagining of the franchise? Like, they were like the one that did annoy me the most was like how they made Knuckles super dumb. I mean, he grew on me, but kind of like made this like general idea that like Knuckles was an idiot when he really isn't. But besides that, I liked a lot of the changes they made. Like one, by getting rid of the Master Emerald, you don't find yourselves in a catch-22 situation with Knuckles, so he can be used more frequently. They made Tsunami 100% mutual, so it was less of Amy pining after Sonic and Sonic made. There are two novels to add on it, and I like a much more sassier and less story-eyed tales.
Yeah, there were a lot of good ideas. I just felt like Boom Knuckles, the inherent direction they took with him was lazy. Here's the strong guy, so he's big and dumb. That is like, that's as tropey as you can get. Part of what makes modern Knuckles so interesting and fun is he's not really that much bigger or different than Sonic, and he's ludicrously strong. I mean, the movie, I feel like thus far as we've seen, has found that nice middle ground where he looks like he's a little bit bigger and a little bit burlier, but it's not to such an extreme. Um, I was okay with most of the redesigns. I honestly prefer Boom Amy's look over modern Amy by a mile, But the adventurer's scarf that Sonic wears, I don't like that it's like dirty, unwashed hand towel brown. It should be red. It should be bright and colorful and daring and not something that seriously needs to just be washed or burned. And the blue arms thing, I don't know. At this point, the fact that they're holding out with the tan arms, I feel like is almost pushing against the tide, because every other male hedgehog we've seen thus far, they've got the colored arms. So Sonic is now the odd one out. Also, the tan belly's kind of weird. So, and so many other forms of media have gone blue arms now. It's like, bite the bullet, give him blue arms. Oh, right. Amy has tan arms. So, I don't know. It's
I never understood people like out of the two things when it comes to Sonic, people seem to be obsessed with discussing it's Sonic character's feet and Sonic arms. Why are people obsessed with those two things?
I don't know, dude. Like that and the eyes. The green eyes, the harbinger of all that is wrong in the world. It's like, no, it's just, stop it. They're fine. It's fine. The fact that Sonic characters have like weird blob feet it's weird. I ain't gonna argue to the contrary, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and like again, I do agree with Boom Knuckle, and I'm thankful for like movie Knuckles, because like now it can kind of like debunk that whole idea that like Knuckles is just like an idiot, because he isn't an idiot. Is he a bit gullible and naive? Sure, but he grew up alone on a floating island. Of course, he's not gonna be the sharpest tool in the shed.
He's inexperienced, is what it is. It's not the stupidity. It's just he doesn't know what to expect.
Exactly. And like I do hope like the movie trailers have been promoting Knuckles as being like this badass, which I am happy about, but I do hope they get to show like a little bit of his Dokio side.
Yeah. Another thing with Boom is I kind of wish Orbot, Cubot, and Metal Sonic looked different, that they had Boom designs, that they were a little more in line with the egg tech of the series, because they felt like they were just straight transplants from modern Sonic. And that's to me, that's jarring. You've got a completely different visual aesthetic for the series, so apply it to everyone, you know?
I never actually really considered that. Like, yeah, everyone else have like a huge redesign, but Obot, Cubot, Metal Sonic look like their design assets was kind of like just plucked out of a game and transplanted into Boom. Yeah. But and so another thing about Boom, like, don't you ever find it weird how we practically know nothing about the Sonic cast background in this reimagining, such as how they all met and became friends, how Sonic met Eggman for the first time, and what Shadow whole deal is?
Not so much, because that's not what was important to the story. It was, here are the characters and here are their adventures. With the modern series, which is built off of the classic foundation, you had the slow growth of everything, and so the whole point was the introduction of these new characters. Here they are, here's their relation, this is why they're cool, blah blah blah. With Boom, they start from the word go. Not that I'm saying that there should be any reason to not go back and look at it, and like Rise of Lyric was supposed to show Sonic and Eggman's past until that got cut, but it wasn't part of the dynamic of that version of the franchise. It didn't have to build everything up. It was going off of the premise of, here are Sonic and these characters, but they're different. So you spend the time with the different versions of the characters, and then I would imagine that had it continued, once you were comfortable and familiar with them, but it doesn't really bother me that we started off with just, here is the cast.
I mean, I guess it doesn't bother me either. And more so, like, I remember how when Sonic Boom was airing, I was constantly hoping, come on, give us a flashback episode. Come on, give us a flashback episode. And we never got it.
Yeah, well, that's also because Sega is kind of averse to establishing backstories and stuff that isn't built into the story initially.
It really is funny just to think about like compared to their like main continuity stuff, how these like just how Team Sonic formed. Like it just really is fun to think about since there's so many possibilities. And like Shadow is really interesting because like this is a Shadow who seemingly may never have had a Maria in her in his life. So you're wondering like was he created like by was he still created by like Gerald Robotnik? Does Gerald even exist in this continuity, or did they just change Shadow completely to better fit in this continuity?
Yeah, what little crumbs we got were tantalizing. It's like, oh, what could this be? Could it be something a little more straightforward? Something a little different? We'll never know. I'm also sad that the old room, back before Boom Shadow actually appeared, there was this rumor going around that he was going to be a surfer dude and that he had a surfboard named Maria. And I kind of wish that had come true because that's funny.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Gosh, I really wish Boom could have been a success just to see how.
This is it, wasn't it, Maria? A chance for everyone to hang 10. Sure.
And like again, continuing on Boom. So like, I mean, I'm fine with it being like self-contained. We didn't need Boom version of like every single one of Sonic of the extended cast, but like, would there have been any like Sonic characters you would have just loved to see like put a Boom spin on them?
I mean, there's the appeal of, what could you do with any of them, to be perfectly honest. Like you said, you don't need every one of them, but there's always that kind of fun what if. I mean, the variations you can do on Modern by itself are endless. So Boom is just another fun twist on that. Especially when they do really fun stuff like Boom Vector, who, he's still a detective, but the fact that he's kind of like a TV detective. And without the chaotics being there to be comic relief, he's actually kind of on the ball and competent, which is a fun twist on things. I would like to see, Big in the Boom continuity. Like, is he any different, or is that the joke? Is that he's just like this background character fisherman who's always there, regardless of setting or circumstances? How does Rouge work in a world where there aren't governments to be a spy for? Is she more like a relic hunter to keep with the fascination with gems? How does she even look? You could go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, there's definitely like I feel like there's something that could be really, but that I feel like there's something that could be done a Boom vote. Like either you crank up her politeness to like 100%, or like you have her be completely like the opposite, like no longer this sweet, innocent, polite girl. She's like a daredevil.
And she's so polite and proper, and the BumbleKast is so not. She would just lose all patience with them. I can't stand you people. I'm done. I'm going home. The thing with Cream, though, is that, she's always partnered with Cheese, but Chow don't exist in Boom. You have the sprites, which didn't really quite fill the same niche. So would Cheese be a sprite? Would Cheese just not exist? Would she have like a plushie that she talked to? Like, what do you do?
Oh, that the plush angle could actually work. Like I could even like see it doing that joke. Like I didn't do anything. Cheese made me do it. Or like, what's that, Cheese? Huh? I should do this? Really? So basically, like Johnny and Plink from Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, there you go. You come over to her house, and there's just this one room with wall-to-wall plushes, and they're all staring.
And like then she's like, "Hey, Mr. Tails, I made a gift for you," and she shows him the Tails doll.
Bring back the creepy Sonic doll from the official live streams. Yes.
Okay. So moving on to like one of my favorite things I always love sending you questions about, worlds collide. So one of my favorite moments to this day is the Sonic and Mega Man versus the Metal Sonic and Bass fight. Like, how did you go about writing this fight exactly?
Number one, I was really sad that we couldn't have metal and bass fused together because I wanted to see what design we could come up with, and the name's right there, metal bass. I mean, come on. But that was tossed out the window, which is fine. What we got was good. I also wanted to defy conventions where, here you have the two heroes against their two antitheses, and the usual way it goes is, oh no, they're our match. We can't defeat them. But if we swap places, they don't know how to handle it. So I purposefully made it so that they, pull that trick and they still get their stuff kicked in, because, metal and bass are badasses. They are not someone you could just switch up on and defeat.
Oh yes, that was like one of my favorite moments. Like what Mega Man was like, sounds like a good plan, and like Sonic said like it should. It always work, and then when it fails miserably, Mega Man like all these works, huh? And Sonic like, oh great, he built you with sarcasm. And another thing, like, was this your decision or was it like the artist's decision in which, for that final time when Mega Man like used all the abilities he acquired from Sonic friends to show like a ghostly image of them? Because I really love that touch.
It's been so long, I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Well, it was still a great moment, because it kind of like made it feel like it just wasn't Sonic and Mega Man fighting. It was like all of Sonic's friends were spiritually there.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on Worlds Collide, so I think the dynamic that was mainly explored was Mega Man and Sonic, which, hey, it makes sense, but like, are there interactions involving characters between the two series you would have liked to interact with each other more? Like, I thought I would have loved to see like a heroic, wholesome version of like the science bromance between Tails and Dr. Light.
Sure, that would have been fun, but I don't know. Worlds Collide, I feel like everything just clicked into the right place. There's certainly areas where you could have more fun and expand upon it, and like you said, Tails and Dr. Light talking about stuff, having Amy and Roll do something together would have been fun, and we got a little bit of Knuckles and Proto Man goodness in Worlds Unite, so it might have been fun to see it in Collide as well. But I don't know. I feel like as it is, we got what we needed to get, and anything else would have been a fun addition, but not really necessary. Like I have no regrets about Worlds Collide. That one just came together. I don't want to say perfectly because that sounds arrogant, but darn it, it's pretty darn.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. I am so happy I bought a copy of like the full trade paperback when I did, because like nowadays trying to buy one of those costs like $500, $600.
Goodness.
Yeah, the one I got, like I think I got it for like $25. And like I like I know, and I do like the bits of interaction we get between like some of the expanded cast, like the Freedom Fighters, and some of like the Mega Man characters. Like that moment between Nicole and Tempo, that was nice, and like I would have loved to seen like more of that dynamic, because like those two could actually relate to each other in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think Unite just, there was too much on the table. The pace was too fast. The casts were too large. It was too much of a good thing,
Yeah, like when I was excited for World Unite, like whoa, four-way crossover between Sonic, Boom, X, and Mega Man, and then when the poster was revealed, I was like, who the heck are half of these characters?
Like the ending mass crossover thing, I still kind of enjoy just for the sheer spectacle of it. But at the time that I was thinking, when Worlds Collide came out, folks enjoyed it, but they're like, well, where's the Freedom Fighters? And, then we were just talking about, well, this is casting a wide net. We're going to be getting a lot of attention from just game players. So we want to keep it on just the game cast to make it accessible to everybody. And with Unite, it's like, okay, well, now that the ideas are introduced, let's bring in the Freedom Fighters. But I didn't want it to be, here's the Sonic cast guest starring some Capcom guys. So we bring in the Robot Masters to balance it out. So it's equal representation between the two franchises. And then you have Boom, and then you have X, and then you have the big multi-IP crossover thing, which was partly out of my hands. And it's too much. It's too big. And, with a cast of that size, even if it was just down to the Sonic and classic Mega Man group, it's still so large, it's almost unwieldy with so many potential conversations and crossovers. So, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like maybe it wasn't as solid as World Collide, but at least at the very least, it still had some enjoyability to it. Still some moments that made me smile. Pretty much anything involving sticks always put a smile on my face. Still sad we didn't get Super Sticks. Would have loved to see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up. So don't you one on Mega Man, you really delved into the tragedy of Dr. Light and Wily relationship, especially in the aftermath of the Wa Moon arc, in which Wily starts having second doubts about executing his new evil plan, since he seemed to be genuinely touched by Light's willingness to trust him, and even contemplating about how much he missed working with Light. Like, what made you decide to go that route with their relationship?
One, to give Wily a little extra dimension, because as nefarious and conceited as he is, he never struck me as straight up evil. Petty, sure, selfish, yeah, but not like the same levels of absolute despot that Eggman is. And on the other hand, you've got Dr. Light. I mean, they were friends for the longest time. So why were they friends? We're not going to have the opportunity to go back and look at them in their younger days too often. So, let's show why they get along and what does it mean to be friends for so long. And to a degree, to help validate Dr. Light and his sometimes naive beliefs in their being good and all, and that people do deserve second chances. Yeah, Wily almost actually did get a clue and stop his evil ways. And to add a little extra tragedy to the whole thing, because the formula of, hey, it's Dr. Wily, or here's a misdirection, but we know it's Dr. Wily, that was already getting a little obvious, and we were only at Mega Man 3. We had at least 7 more games to go, and then some. So finding ways to break up that formula or add a little bit of flavor to it was always something on my mind.
Yes, like even though I knew what was gonna happen, Ian, you still made me go, why Dr. Wily? Why? Like you could have actually had a second chance and you screwed yourself over. And like you said, like you did wanted to like subvert and like not do the same thing over and over again with Wily betrayal. So like you really hammered in like just how hot Light was when he found out that Wily played him for a fool. And like I like that touch in which like Wily isn't glowing. Like you can actually tell like some small part of him actually does feel bad for betraying Light, but like he just won't admit it. Like that whole heartbreak with like, and man, when you have it in which like Light actually believe Wily is dead, like even after everything that happened, he was sad about like Wily's death.
Something I really wanted to hammer home with Light is that he is a good person. The fact that he is so naive and so trusting is seen as a weakness, unfortunately. And I wanted to bolster that by showing that it isn't just blind optimism, that he really is a visionary for the good of the world. It's just, sometimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So, not make him completely oblivious to the dangers that are ahead, but to also paint him as someone who is willing to accept the challenge and the risk for the betterment of all. And part of that is when your lifelong friend, who is a serial jerk, just self destructs, yeah, you feel sad about it. You don't necessarily hold them unaccountable, but you still are sad that it couldn't have been better. And there's always that lingering thought of what could I have done to maybe help stop this from happening.
Like with your explanation of light, strangely enough, he actually like you when you lay out all like that, he actually sounds very low. Like now, I'm thinking like Sonic and Dr. Light actually having like a pretty good dynamic with each other because their ideologies surprisingly align a lot.
I think Light is more forward thinking though. He has a goal in mind and he wants to build towards an ideal where Sonic isn't. He doesn't do that. He lives in his ideal. And whatever comes along, he'll handle it when he gets to it, but he doesn't think 3 steps ahead. He just lives in the moment. Light is always thinking about the future and building towards that better tomorrow. You're not wrong. I see with parallels, but I think it's a different execution, a different mentality.
Makes sense, makes sense. Like you said, like just because they've been friends for so long, just like how Light still feels sadness for Wiley, like I guess it's safe to say that like Wiley still kind of feel the same way about Light because like for as jealous and as envious he is of Dr. Light, I never got the impression that Wiley hated him. Like he never even tried killing or harming him. Heck, even in Worlds Collide, you have Wiley be angry that Eggman killed Dr. Light because, like, no, he doesn't want to kill him because, like, I feel like he just doesn't want to admit that he still cares about like his long time friend. So he just uses the guise of no, I just want to prove that I'm better than him as a disguise.
Yeah, it's the pettiness of it. It's not villainy or outright villainy. It's like he would certainly delight in hurting Dr. Light because he sees it as justified revenge for whatever slights he has imagined. Um, he certainly wants to be seen as the superior, but I don't think it goes any further than that. He's not going to be torturous. He's not going to be uh, homicidal about it. It's I'm right and I want justice and I'm going to see it done. And then, like in his mind, I imagine if his vision for robotics took over the world and Thomas just said, "You know what, Albert, you were right," he'd be fine. Water under the bridge. They're all buddy buddy again. Let's go for drinks. That's all he wants. He wants to be acknowledged as the genius that he sees himself as. And the problem is he can't see outside of his own ego.
Yeah, Wiley is his own worst enemy, though. It is funny to think about, like, kind of funny how he became like the world's greatest villain, but also like hundreds of years later, it's his creation that saved the world.
Yeah.
Oh, irony.
Okay, we don't know when we'll ever be seeing Silver Future again, but and like you have mentioned in the past, like there are a few characters from the past that could theoretically still exist in Silver Future. Do you think like Gemworld could perhaps be one of them, or maybe like Obot and Cubot?
Sure, the robots could conceivably endure. I mean, they might be in disrepair, but I mean, they could potentially be sticking around. Silver goes rooting around and is like, oh boy, maybe it's one of my old friends from the past. And it's freaking Chaos Gamma.
Uh-oh.
There is something kind of depressing imagining Game World 200 years in the future, just like in still missing cream and vanilla and cheese, like the coaster being a robot.
Yeah, but here let's theory craft a quick happy ending. Cheese has become a light chow, therefore he's immortal, and he's hanging out with Gemerald, so they're buddies forever.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay, so Ian, do you prefer the Eggman Empire consisting of Mobians or just robots? Like, I know I prefer the former since it makes the Eggman Empire feels more like an actual empire with it adding more nuance since Sonic and friends aren't just fighting robots, they're fighting other Mobians who have their reasoning for being a part of the Empire. Some of them against their will, some of them because they believe that Eggman can't be defeated, and some who willingly chose to side with Eggman because they're just evil that way.
I think you can make a case for either. The appeal of the all robotic army, the faceless masses, allows the heroes to fight without any moral conundrums, which is great for a game setting where you don't necessarily have the time to get into the nuance. You don't have to worry about, are they being too violent towards another living being? You can have a lot of new material, like here's the new cool boss robot, and you have your encounter, and that's sufficient. That works for the game. And then you have your Orbot and Cubot there to be foils to Eggman. That's enough within his little circle. Metal Sonic is there as the fun antithesis to Sonic, and then you don't really need much more for an action platformer. When you have something that's more narratively driven like the comics, you do want something with a little more meat, and that's where the egg bosses shine through. I wonder if there were too many, to be honest, but that kind of depends. They were built with a different mentality for a different style of storytelling and a different kind of book. I don't know if they would necessarily quite work with IDW as it is right now, but you could build in that direction, I suppose. I don't know. It all comes down to Eggman trusts his own creations first and foremost. He likes his machines. And he's worked with some other elements of the past, Infinite being, kind of hallmark in that. But it's not quite his MO with the game side of things. So we would have to see a shift in his preferences and mentalities on the game side of things to make it a little more sensible where we are with IDW now, which is entirely possible. It's just, I don't know. I'm not opposed to seeing a spiritual successor to the Egg Bosses, but I think you have to handle it differently with IDW.
Dude, again, I just found like the egg bosses be like a cool concept, like Eggman having like these generals, each with like a different theme and motif, controlling a different region, which like does kind of like help amplify Eggman level of dread. Imagine so many times over, how could a Sonic video game implement each of these egg bosses as an individual boss you have to defeat before you fight the big egg himself, Eggman?
And from what I recall, the egg bosses were built at least partially with game mechanics in mind.
So okay, so it has tended to be played more for laughs when it happened, but if you wrote a story in which Sonic lost his speed, how would you go about having Sonic lose his powers? And are there any other characters you think would be fun to do a story in which they lose their power temporarily?
Maybe it's already been done a few times,
Yeah, but always more for laughs rather than an actual like uphill struggle for Sonic. Like, like all those classic superhero stories where Peter Parker loses his spider powers and gotta rise to the occasion without his powers.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being treated fairly seriously when they did it in SEGA.
Oh, I didn't realize they did inside the inn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Wizard Lazar
Yeah, that's one
steals
of
his power.
that honestly is one of the more memorable episodes for me. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. Is that considered a good episode? I'm not sure.
I don't remember on it. I don't know. And it was like the entire premise of Sonic Labyrinth, so
yeah.
take that as canon as you want. But I don't know. It's if we were to go that route, and it's one of those stories that's kind of done a lot, I'd want to find a way to put a spin on it, do something a little different. Like if Sonic has lost his powers, he doesn't freak out over it. He's like, huh, all right, so that's what I am now. All right, work with it. And then like maybe he's athletic enough to make up for it, or Metal Sonic doesn't want to go through with taking him out because now he's slow. Where's the challenge? This isn't right. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be the real Sonic. Does this mean I have to take out my jet engine? How does this work now? Have Sonic be completely at ease with this world-shattering, changing event, and the rest of the world kind of falling down around him. It's like, no, the formula's been thrown out the window. What do we do? What do we do? And so many of the characters are kind of comfortable in their own skin now. Like if Tails were to wake up one day with a single tail, he can't fly anymore, so there's that lack of freedom, but he's become so accustomed to who he is. Does he have trouble with the idea of he's just a regular fox now? He still has his inventive mind. He still has most of his skill of himself. Is this just like a small speed bump in the road for him? He's like, well, now I'm just going to have to adjust to this. I don't know. It's kind of, I think back to the issue we did in Sonic X where Eggman and Sonic switch brains, and it was such a tired concept that I purposefully had as much goofy fun with it as possible. It's like, okay, we already know how this plot plays out. Let's just we'll hit the high marks, but let's have fun with it.
And then they did the same thing in Boom.
Yeah. So if we're going to do something as conventional as the hero loses their signature ability, I'd want to find some way to make it not the conventional approach.
So on the flip side, like if the idea that Sonic would still be at ease without his powers, I can't help but imagine like his counterpart, like Scourge, would probably be freaking out without his powers, especially since like he have a lot of enemies, so everyone will be like, hey, he doesn't have any powers anymore. Let's get him.
Oh yeah, that absolute nightmare entity is built around I am Sonic's equal, so to lose that power would just be devastating on an existential level. And as you said, if he can't back up his bravado, he's in that's a big target painted on his back.
And then with Soul, I guess like she would be freaking out without her power because she's supposed to be like better than Sonic, but without her powers, how's she gonna prove herself?
Yeah, she would be obsessing over some way to either get them back or something comparable. That would be her single-minded devotion.
Would read a lot of Flash comic books, and like make sure to douse herself with chemicals and get struck by lightning.
Hey, whatever works or doesn't, and then she ends up dead.
Okay. So, Ian, a lot of fans always ask you how you'd write heroic versions of Sonic villains or villainous versions of Sonic heroes, but do you have any idea for alternative versions of a character in which their morality is the same, but they're completely different? So, like a version of Knuckles who's still heroic and super strong, but is also a genius.
Wouldn't that just be like Locke and the rest of the Brotherhood? Here's Knuckles, but he can science. I don't know. It's then that kind of is the Professor Hulk angle. Is like, okay, it's Hulk, but he's smart. Okay, how is that new and interesting and different? What does that do? How does that coexist with what's there? So we've got a Knuckles, but he's Tails level smart. How does he coexist with with regular Knuckles, or is he replacing regular Knuckles? Like, what is the purpose of that character? What do they bring to the table that is better than what we already have?
I mean, I do think there's like a lot of fun that could be had if, like, even if you don't switch their morality, like maybe if you switch certain character roles, like maybe in another reality, like Jules is the high flying, energetic adventurer, and Tangle is like the one who runs her little like bookshop and hates adventure.
Yeah, sure. There's fun variations on that, but I feel like those exist for maybe like a what if one off. It's not something that I would really want to like dwell on. And with the characters, like when you take something more extreme, like you take Sonic without the morality or Sonic without the selflessness, you can build a character around that and you get someone like Surge. When you take it's Tangle, but she's an introvert, that doesn't quite like ring the same bell. It doesn't excite in the same way, at least in this franchise. If we were to use it as like, here's Tangle's sister that we never spoke about until now, and that's because she doesn't leave her house. Like, that works for maybe a supporting character, but I don't know if you're using it as a foundation for what can we do to add something new. I think you need to have a more dynamic difference. And if it's just kind of like alternate universe fun what ifs, that's fine. But I personally do not, I'm not immediately drawn to that myself.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. I just always just find it like, I mean, again, always just funny to just imagine characters in different worlds. Like, especially again, like the idea of like Jewel being like the high flying adventurer. Like, it's interesting to just imagine like Jewel in that kind of setting and like all the kind of questions that exist. Like, does that mean she's best friend with Whisper, or like does somehow even with like Tangle as an introvert, or like friendship and bond with Whisper transcends reality?
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. Of course, in that scenario, is it Mimic who escaped and Whisper who betrayed the Diamond Cutters?
Ooh, yeah, yeah. But I do know like one story that has always crossed my mind. Like, how do you think like how do you think Westfall would react to like a heroic version of Mimic, like a Mimic who never betrayed his team? Like, I can only imagine how much that would like just destroy Wistful mind.
The portal opens and good Mimic falls through and gives his backstory and whatnot. Whisper would not trust it at first at all because damage and precedent. But I think that given time and proof, that desire to have part of her old life back would allow her to open up to the idea. The rest of the cast might have to help that thinking along, like give him a chance, maybe trust us. This whole giving the villains another shot is sometimes pans out, and he's not even the villainous version. I could see her wanting to have that friend back and eventually accepting good Mimic, which is tragic when Evil Whisper splatters his brain on the pavement.
Please. You just went from wholesome to angst in like 100.
That's Ian for you, Gotta kill them all.
Okay, good. So I only have a few questions left. I mean, we still got time, but like I'm almost done with all of my questions. Believe it or not, I had even more.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So this is something that has all like every time I reread Treasure Team Tango, Ian, I always forget Nicole is in the story. So I gotta know, like, for that last panel when Amy said, "Oh no, I forgot about Nicole," was that like a meta joke, as in like you actually forgot that Nicole was in the story? So you were like, "Oh shoot, I gotta address what happened to Nicole."
If memory serves, I was showing Aaliyah the script, And she says, so what happened to Nicole? And I said, oh crap, what happened to Nicole? And we turned it into a joke. I think that's how I remember it going.
Oops.
I always got that impression. I just really wanted confirmation.
Oops.
Okay, so what do you think is the deal with Mobians and powers in Sonic World? Like, they don't seem so common that everyone has them, but they aren't so well that people are shocked by them.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's something akin to My Hero Academia, where it's like a percentage of the has these incredible skills, and it's just accepted as, yeah, they do. That's a thing that happens. I mean, the Avatar character out of Forces is not necessarily Sonic level of skill, but they can still spin jump, right? It's been a while since I actually picked up and played.
I don't think so.
No, okay, but to be able to fling themselves around Spider-Man style with that grapple hook and to tear through the robots with your Wispons, even if those things are overpowered as all get out, that still requires a certain degree of impressive skill. But then you've got, Vanilla and presumably everyone else who was captured on the Death Egg and whatnot, showing that they don't necessarily have that level. I have no idea what the percentage is because we hadn't really seen the rest of the Mobian population to get a good gauge for it. But if the Chaotix can come together from whatever their backgrounds are, and if Sonic's group of friends can come together and all that, it stands to reason that it's a decent portion of the population.
Yeah, I always got that impression though. Like, do you ever think about like just based off Sonic heroes, like Cream and Charmy gotta have like some kind of innate super strength because like Charmy can lift Espio and Vector, and Cream can lift Amy and Big.
Well, Big's lifting his own weight, and therefore by cartoon physics that offsets it.
Okay, I'll take that answer. I mean, personally, I was leaning towards super strength just because I love the idea of like Cream beating Knuckles in an arm wrestling contest.
Please, Mr. Knuckles, actually try this time.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
No, Mr. Knuckles, you're supposed to put my arm the other direction. I know that! Should I use my offhand, Mr. Knuckles? No, it's fine!
Okay, so with like on your one on Mega Man, like how do you think personalities for robots in Mega Man work? Like, are they programmed with a certain personality in mind? Does their function shape their personality? Interaction with the world?
In Classic, it seems like it's a bit of a crapshoot. And for the whole thing is that Replades are supposed to be the first synthetic life that can form their own opinions and personalities. They are built with a purpose, but they still seem to be able to forge their own identities. Whereas Classic, by virtue of coming first, shouldn't have that. But we see it fairly commonly. Like Sheepman chooses different jobs because that's what he wants. Blues clearly has his own freaking personality. So it's kind of a very fine line to walk and say that the Robot Masters are built with an AI that is adaptable enough to emulate personality and decision making, but that they are by function. Something I've come back to a few times is the reason why Mega Man is so versatile is that his function is to help people. And that is broad enough that he is given the latitude to fight if he needs to. Whereas Blues' original construction was just to be. And so arguably that's him fulfilling his function. He's being, he's existing. And he has a little bit of trouble figuring that out. So you can make a case for, there's counter arguments amongst a lot of the Robot Masters because I don't think it's been consistently implemented throughout the entire franchise. But the way I tried to rationalize it was that the Robot Masters were built with that in mind, and it was incredibly adaptable and versatile coding, limitations to it. We see that a little bit now, like the personalities we see in stuff like Alexa or Cortana, the Windows app, not the Halo character. You see a little bit of that with just the way that the voice actors who provide the voices characterize themselves. Or shoot, even if you go to the self-checkout at the grocery store, the voice that talks to you is usually very pleasant and directive, and if it thinks you're trying to sneak something off into the bag, it changes its tone. That is a machine interacting with you on a personal level and conveying a sense of emotion. There was one particular checkout that I remember working with where it was a very polite and softly spoken woman when you're doing the normal checkout, but if it thinks you're trying to steal something, it turns into a very aggressive man's voice, which is the whole psychological thing right there. But so we see the seeds of that now. So I don't see that big of a gap between that level of rudimentary AI that we have in our everyday lives and the Robot Masters in this goofy fantasy world.
Okay. And like that does lead me to another question. Like, okay, so with all that in mind, like, why do you think that even though she was given back her personality, Tempo was never the exact same Tempo again?
Because the old Tempo was gone. The programming, the subroutines, the data that was used to create the original Tempo was lost. And the Tempo that we met and saw grow in the series was basically a new pass at that individual. The old Tempo died, and when she was rebuilt, she wasn't allowed to live until Lilinde, kind of accepted that she did care for this daughter that she had created and that she should give her the opportunity to grow again.
Okay, almost done. Just a few more, like 5, 6 questions left.
Let's get through them.
Okay, so continuing on Mega Man, we never got a proper meeting between Roll and Blues in a comic. So exactly how much would you be delivering on the field when you eventually had the two meet face to face, since Blues would still be whacked with guilt over shooting Roll by accident?
So much angst, so much delicious angst. The original plan when we would get to Mega Man 4 is that there would be a major running subplot, which at that point I guess would just be co-plot, where Breakman decides, you know what, Wily has gone too far with kidnapping Kalinka. This is wrong. But this is not something I can do on my own. I need help. And actually, I was going to say he grabs Roll, but he does not. He and Quake Woman, we're going to go rescue Kalinka. So that does not answer your question.
Oh, man, that sounds awesome.
And the original plan, too, was that Wily has no idea how to handle young children. So he builds Waltz to try to understand, okay, if I build a little girl, I will understand how little girls work. No, that didn't quite work. Well, Waltz, you go watch Kalinka and do little girl things, whatever that is. And then
oh boy.
And then Proto Man and Quake Woman show up to rescue Kalinka, and Waltz goes into killer robot mode, and they would fight, and it would be cool. And they would rescue Kalinka just in time to reveal that she is alive, doesn't have to work with Wily anymore. And grand finale, and it would have been fantastic. And why do we not have this book? Oh, it hurts.
I want to go to the timeline where you got to adopt all the Mega Man games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's also the timeline where we got original design movie Sonic.
I will take that trade. Thank you very much.
I mean, to be fair, so would I.
But to answer your question, trying to think now, did we actually have a dedicated Proto Man and Roll moment? I can't immediately think of one because they don't really have that many interactions in game, but I would imagine it's to a degree that Blues has a very hard time opening up and acknowledging her because he's got a lot of conflicted emotions on it, and Roll, being the helpful and supportive and fixing robot that she is, realizes the damage and just kind of accepts him as he is and works with what they've got. That she is able to kind of help him stumble his way through the interaction without making him feel any more awkward than he already is.
Nice, nice. Got more than I expected from that question, definitely. So prior to issue 15 of IDW Sonic, both times you had Sonic encountered Rough and Tumble, he ended up doing a fun rhyme with his ally at the time, yet we didn't get one with him and Amy in issue 15, which I kind of felt like, why is that exactly?
It didn't occur to him at the time.
Fair enough, fair enough. I guess I was just really looking forward to a so namey rhyme.
I mean, Rough and Tumble are still around, and so are Sonic and Amy. Give it time.
Dude, fair point, fair point. Okay. Which member of the Freedom Fighter did you have the most fun having Sonic interact with and bounce off of? For me, I love how you wrote Antoine and Sonic dynamic.
Yeah, you took my answer. I mean, Sonic's always fun with everybody, but he and Antoine, they're oil and water, you know?
Don't you mean water and margarine? Yeah, I really did like their dynamic. It was fun. Okay, so this don't have crossed my mind a few times. Like, with how just much different old Whisper was, like, how do you imagine like the dynamic between like pre-tragic Whisper and Tangle dynamic would be like? Like, what do you think that their dynamic would be like?
Oh, night and day. It would be, Tangle would be all, let's go ride bikes. And Mr. would be like, yeah, let's go ride bikes. And they're riding bikes and screaming the entire way because they're riding bikes and that's fun. We should get a 2-seater bike. We should get a 2-seater bike. We should ride it backwards. We should totally ride it backwards.
We should get married. Let's get married. Okay, so this is something like this, a little brain teaser that has crossed my mind. Like, would Robo Enza affect roboticized Mobians?
I don't see why not. I mean, it affects robots. They're robots. And that would be a bad thing for Robotnik because now he can't control them because the Robo Enza is making them go berserk.
Okay. And okay, so final question. I mean, I still got a lot more. Okay, final question. Okay, so you've talked about your plan for Mega Man 7 a few times on the show. So, but I was wondering, like, how would you have handled the aftermath of that? Like, how would like Mega Man trying to kill Wily affect both Mega Man and Wily separately?
For the infamous scene itself, what I really want to do is like dwell on that moment of him getting stuck in the laws of robotics. And even see the idea is here, I don't know if it would have actually worked on the page, but the idea of actually taking the badly localized English and presenting that as Mega Man's faculties shutting down, like he can't even speak clearly anymore. Afterwards, that's a tough one. Didn't really have it fully fleshed out because that was so far down the line. But some ideas on the table were Rock is just stuck in an infinite cascade error, and the Dr. Light would have to take a page from Dr. Lalinde's book and actually delete a bit of memory from Mega Man to help him. He can't get over the trauma, so remove the trauma, which raises a lot of questions, which is something else that would really have to be dealt with. That's why I'm saying it's idea on the table. We didn't fully explore this. Another one would be to have Blues talk to Roll, talk to Tempo, talk to heck, even maybe Blues, and hash it out with them, figure it out.
Wait, Blues would talk to Blues?
No, sorry, Rock. Rock would have to talk to Roll and Blues and such and figure it out, which would need more time, and we'd need to find a way to bring him back to the happy blue boy that he is. As for Wily, it would be a bit of a scare, to be sure, but I don't know. Either he would take it out on base, like maybe he ups his aggression there to ensure that, if Mega Man comes at me, you get in the way, you stop him. Or take it as, would he really have pulled the trigger? No, he obviously wouldn't have. Thomas is a fool, but he knows how to program a robot properly. He would never would have pulled the trigger. Yes, I worried for nothing. I absolutely worried for nothing. I didn't almost die. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I don't know.
Oh, and though that does actually, okay, one more question as well, because I promise this is my last one. It does actually tie into Mega Man 7 because, I have noticed, because, the big thing about Mega Man is, every time Mega Man have defeated Wily, he always, gets on his hands and knees and beg for forgiveness. But, after the first 3 adoptions of that in the comic, we actually didn't get that. Were you waiting for the right moment to finally actually, have Wily be on his hands and knee? Or, were you trying to avoid it all entirely?
Just trying to find where it makes sense in the pacing. Because if he's prostrating himself like that, what is stopping Mega Man from just walking over him, grabbing him by the scuff, and hauling him home? There's a few misdirects. There's a few ways that he does get away, but it's what works best within the comic format of the story.
Okay. Well, that's my last. That's my last question. I mean, I could probably ask more questions, but I have plenty, and I know you gotta go.
Yeah, and you know what? You're always welcome back for another guest spot if you want to go commit to that. And there is always both the priority and the standard Q&A.
Yep.
Before we wrap up, though, is there anywhere you want people to find you on the internet? Is there anything you want to plug?
You can find me here on YouTube on my channel PedantiCat, where I make videos in which I share my thoughts on animated series and movies, do ship analysis, character analysis, along with finding me on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram as PedantiCat.
Excellent.
Well, once again, thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the fun questions. And Kyle, you got anything to
add? Not immediately. Except I'm gonna cut you off right here and have you repeat the whole thing again. Oh, Discord. We hate you. Oh, well. We're done.
Wait, were you joking?
Well, are you joking or were you serious? Oh no, Kyle gone mad with power. Ian, I thought you took care of this.
I thought I did too, but we must obey Overlord Kyle. Run, but yourself!
Run! Now are you
Hello?
Are you dead, Ian? Is this where we're going? Is this what we've come to? We all just gonna die off in turn on Discord?
Check.
There you are. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.